Emma's hands were shaking so hard, she almost dropped the dusty photo album. The 12-year-old girl had found something in her grandmother's attic that made her stomach twist into knots. Something that would change everything she thought she knew about her family. Something that would make her question if the woman she loved most in the world had been lying to her for her entire life. But let me back up and tell you how Emma ended up in that dusty attic, holding secrets that would tear her family apart. It started on a rainy Thursday afternoon in October. Emma was staying at Grandma Rose's house while her parents were out of town. She loved these visits. Grandma Rose always made the best chocolate chip cookies, told the funniest stories, and never minded when Emma stayed up past her bedtime. Emma was bored. She had finished her homework, watched her favorite show twice, and even helped Grandma Rose water all her plants. The old house felt too quiet, too still. "Grandma, can I explore the attic?" Emma asked, looking up from her phone. Grandma Rose froze. The coffee mug in her hand started to shake. For just a moment, something dark flashed across her face, something that looked almost like fear. "Oh, honey, there's nothing interesting up there. Just old junk and spider webs," Grandma Rose said quickly, too quickly. "Why don't we bake some cookies instead?" But Emma had already noticed the change in her grandmother's voice. The way her eyes wouldn't meet Emma's. The way her fingers drummed nervously on the kitchen table. Emma had always been curious. Too curious, her parents often said, and right now her curiosity was burning like fire in her chest. "Please, Grandma, I promise I'll be careful, I just want to see what's up there." Grandma Rose looked away. She walked to the window and stared out at the rain for a long time. When she finally turned around, her eyes looked tired, sad, like she was carrying something heavy that she couldn't put down. "All right," she whispered, "but don't touch anything important looking, okay?" Emma's heart jumped with excitement. She gave her grandmother a big hug and ran toward the narrow stairs that led to the attic. The wooden steps creaked under her feet as she climbed. Each step sounded like a warning in the quiet house. The air got colder as she went higher. By the time she reached the top, goosebumps covered her arms. The attic was dark and dusty. Sunlight leaked through a small window, creating long shadows across the floor. Old furniture covered in white sheets looked like ghosts in the dim light. Boxes were stacked everywhere, labeled with words Emma couldn't quite read in the darkness. She pulled out her phone and turned on the flashlight. The first few boxes were boring. Old Christmas decorations, winter clothes that smelled like mothballs, books with pages that crumbled when she touched them. Emma was starting to think Grandma Rose was right. There really was nothing interesting up here. Then she saw it. In the far corner, almost hidden behind an old rocking chair, was a small wooden box. Unlike everything else in the attic, this box wasn't covered in dust. Someone had been taking care of it. Someone had been visiting it. Emma's hands trembled as she picked it up. The wood was smooth and warm. There was no lock, just a simple latch that clicked open easily. Inside, she found something that made her heart stop. Photos, dozens and dozens of photos. But these weren't normal family photos. These were pictures of a little girl who looked exactly like Emma, but in clothes from a long time ago. The girl was laughing, playing, hugging a woman who looked just like a younger version of Grandma Rose. But here's what made Emma's blood turn cold. She had never seen these photos before, and the little girl in them, the little girl looked exactly like her mother. Emma flipped through more photos, her hands shaking harder with each one. The little girl was blowing out candles on birthday cakes, opening Christmas presents, playing in a yard that looked exactly like Grandma Rose's backyard, but with different flowers and a younger tree. At the bottom of the box was a birth certificate. Emma held her breath as she read it. Name: Sarah Ann Thompson. Date of birth: March 15th, 1985. Mother: Rose Marie Thompson. Father: unknown. Sarah, that was her mother's name, but her mother's last name wasn't Thompson, it was Johnson. And her mother's birthday wasn't in March, it was in June. Emma felt like the world was spinning around her. Nothing made sense. Why would her mother have a different birthday, a different last name, and why had she never seen any photos of her mother as a child? She kept digging through the box with desperate hands. At the very bottom, wrapped in a piece of faded pink cloth, was a letter. The handwriting was shaky, like someone had been crying while they wrote it. My dearest Rose, the letter began. I know this is the hardest thing I've ever asked you to do, but please take care of Sarah. Her father doesn't want her and I'm too sick to give her the life she deserves. Please love her like she's your own daughter. Please give her all the happiness I never could. She's the most precious thing in my world and I trust you to keep her safe. All my love, Margaret. Emma's phone fell from her hands and clattered on the attic floor. Margaret, that was Grandma Rose's sister. The sister who had died when Emma's mother was young. The sister Emma had heard about in whispered conversations that always stopped when she walked into the room. The truth hit Emma like a punch to the stomach. Her mother wasn't Grandma Rose's daughter. Her mother was Grandma Rose's niece, which meant Grandma Rose wasn't her real grandmother, she was her great-aunt. Emma felt sick. Her whole life had been a lie. Every story, every birthday celebration, every time she had called this woman Grandma, it had all been built on secrets. But wait, there was more. Under the letter was another document. This one looked official, with fancy letterhead and a gold seal. Emma squinted to read it in the dim light. Certificate of adoption, it said at the top. And below that in careful legal writing, Sarah Ann Thompson, age 3, legally adopted by Rose Marie Thompson on August 12, 1988. Emma's mind was racing. Her mother had been adopted, but why keep it secret? Why lie about birthdays and names and family history? She heard footsteps on the attic stairs. Emma, honey, are you all right up there? Grandma Rose's voice sounded worried, scared. Emma quickly shoved everything back into the box, but her hands were shaking so bad she dropped half the photos. They scattered across the dusty attic floor like fallen leaves. I'm coming, Grandma, Emma called back, but her voice cracked. She tried to gather all the photos, but there were too many. Her phone's flashlight beam danced wildly as her hands shook. Some pictures slid under the old rocking chair. Others got mixed up with dust and cobwebs. Grandma Rose's footsteps were getting closer. Emma could hear her breathing heavily from the climb. Emma, I need to talk to you. The voice was right behind her now. Emma spun around, still clutching several photos in her hands. Grandma Rose stood at the top of the attic stairs, her face pale in the dim light. When she saw the wooden box open and the photos scattered everywhere, her shoulders dropped like someone had taken all the strength out of her body. Oh, honey, Grandma Rose whispered, I was hoping this day would never come. Emma felt tears burning in her eyes. Grandma, I don't understand, these pictures, this birth certificate, Mom's real birthday, none of it makes sense. Grandma Rose walked slowly across the attic floor and sat down heavily on an old trunk. She looked older than Emma had ever seen her. Tired, broken. Sit down, baby girl, Grandma Rose said softly. It's time you knew the truth. Emma sat on the dusty floor, still holding the photos. She felt like she was in a dream, a scary dream where nothing was what it seemed. Your mother, Grandma Rose began, has been through things that no child should ever go through. Her real mother, my sister Margaret, she was very sick. Not just in her body but in her mind too. She couldn't take care of Sarah properly. Emma's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Margaret called me one night when Sarah was 3 years old. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. She said she was afraid she might hurt Sarah during one of her bad spells. She begged me to take Sarah and keep her safe. Grandma Rose picked up one of the scattered photos, a picture of little Sarah laughing on a swing set. So I did. I drove all night to get Sarah and bring her here. Margaret signed the adoption papers a few weeks later. She died the following winter. Emma felt like she couldn't breathe. But why lie about everything else? Why change her birthday? Why not tell her the truth? Grandma Rose's eyes filled with tears. Because Sarah was so little when she came to live with me. She had nightmares every night for months. She was scared of everything. I wanted to give her a fresh start, a new beginning. So we celebrated her adoption day as her birthday instead. We made up new happy memories to replace the scary ones. But what about when she got older? Why didn't you tell her then? Grandma Rose was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. Because I was selfish, Emma. Sarah started calling me Mama after about 6 months and it made me so happy. I had never been able to have children of my own. Having Sarah, it felt like a miracle. I was afraid that if she knew I wasn't her real mother, she might not love me the same way. Emma felt tears streaming down her face. But they weren't tears of anger, they were tears of understanding. And as the years went by, Grandma Rose continued, it got harder and harder to tell the truth. How do you tell a happy teenager that her entire childhood was built on lies? How do you tell a young woman planning her wedding that her birth certificate is fake? Emma wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Does Mom know? Has she ever found out? Grandma Rose shook her head. I don't think so. I've been so careful for so many years. I moved all these photos and documents up here when Sarah turned 18 just in case. I kept thinking I would tell her someday when the time was right, but the right time never came. Emma looked down at the photos in her hands. In one picture, little Sarah was hugging Grandma Rose tightly, both of them covered in flour and laughing. They looked so happy, so much like a real mother and daughter. Grandma, Emma said quietly, I think Mom would understand. I think she would be grateful for everything you did for her. Grandma Rose looked up with hope in her eyes. Do you really think so? I know so. Mom always talks about how you're the most important person in her life, how you taught her everything she knows about being a good mother. She loves you so much, Grandma. Nothing could change that. Grandma Rose started crying then, big tears that rolled down her cheeks and dripped onto the dusty attic floor. I've been carrying this secret for so long, she whispered. It's been like a rock in my chest for 30 years. I was so afraid that if anyone found out I would lose Sarah, and I would lose you. Emma scrambled over and hugged her grandmother tightly. You could never lose us, Grandma. Family isn't just about blood, it's about love, and you loved Mom when nobody else could. You saved her. They sat there in the dusty attic, hugging and crying, surrounded by scattered photos and 30 years of secrets. What do we do now? Emma asked. Grandma Rose wiped her eyes and took a deep breath. I think it's time to tell your mother the truth, all of it. She deserves to know where she really came from. Emma nodded. Will you let me help? I want to be there when you tell her. Of course, honey, we're family. We face hard things together. As they gathered up all the photos and documents, Emma felt something she hadn't expected to feel, excitement. Yes, this was scary. Yes, it would be hard, but it was also the missing piece of her family's story. Grandma, Emma said as they walked down the attic stairs together, can I ask you something? Anything, baby girls. Do you think Mom will be mad that you kept this secret for so long? Grandma Rose paused on the stairs and thought for a moment. She might be upset at first, but I think when she understands why I did it to protect her, to give her a chance at happiness, I think she'll forgive me. Emma smiled. I think so too. They spent the rest of the afternoon looking through all the photos together. Grandma Rose told Emma stories about each one, about little Sarah's first day of school, her first loose tooth, her first bicycle ride. Stories that had been locked away in the attic for decades. She was such a brave little girl, Grandma Rose said, holding a picture of Sarah on her 5th birthday. Even after everything she had been through, she still believed in magic and fairy tales and happy endings. Just like Mom is now, Emma said, she still believes in happy endings. I think that's because of you, Grandma. When Emma's parents came home that Sunday, they found Emma and Grandma Rose sitting at the kitchen table with the wooden box between them. Both of them looked nervous but determined. Mom, Emma's mother Sarah said, looking confused, what's all this? Emma looked at her grandmother, who nodded encouragingly. Mom, Emma said, taking a deep breath. Grandma has something really important to tell you, something about your childhood, about who you really are. Sarah sat down slowly, her eyes moving between Emma and Grandma Rose. What do you mean? Grandma Rose reached across the table and took Sarah's hands in her own. Sarah, honey, she began, her voice strong and clear. I need to tell you a story about a little girl who needed a home and a woman who needed someone to love. A story about how families are made not just by blood but by choice, by love, by the decision to never give up on each other. And as Grandma Rose began to tell the truth, all of it, finally, Emma watched her mother's face change from confusion to shock to understanding to something that looked like relief. Because sometimes the truth doesn't destroy a family. Sometimes it makes it stronger. 3 months later, Emma found her mother in Grandma Rose's attic again, but this time she wasn't alone. All 3 generations were up there together, looking through photo albums and sharing stories. You know what's funny? Sarah said, holding up a picture of herself at age 4. I always wondered why I look so different from you, Mom. Now I know, but it doesn't matter. You're still my real mom. You're the one who raised me, who loved me, who made me who I am. Emma smiled as she watched her mother hug her grandmother, her great-aunt, her adoptive grandmother, her family. Because that's what Emma had learned in that dusty attic. Family isn't about the secrets we keep from each other. It's about the love we choose to give, even when everything else falls apart. And sometimes, the most beautiful families are the ones that get put together in the most unexpected ways. The wooden box still sits in Grandma Rose's attic, but now it's not full of secrets anymore. Now it's full of the beginning of their real story. The story of 3 generations of strong women who learned that the truth, no matter how scary, always has the power to set you free.